So, today we're going to talk about a story that is just as bizarre as it is tragic. It's called The Cockroach Fire Tragedy. And wow, it is a powerful reminder of how one tiny decision can just spiral into a complete catastrophe. Okay, let me start by asking you a question, and it's gonna sound a little strange. What's the absolute most dangerous way you could possibly kill a cockroach? I mean, you're probably thinking a heavy shoe, maybe some kind of chemical spray, right? Well, in this story, the answer is way more extreme. Because, you see, the answer here isn't a joke. It's the beginning of a story about how trying to kill one little pest started a massive fire. A fire that would end in absolute tragedy. All right, so let's get right into what happened. Our story kicks off in an apartment building in Osan, South Korea. And it all starts with a super common problem. A bug in the house, but a very, very uncommon solution. The weapon of choice here was an improvised flamethrower, and it is terrifyingly simple to make one of these. You just take a lighter, hold it up to a can of flammable spray like bug spray, and you get a jet of fire. And that's exactly what a woman in her 20s did, all to get rid of a single cockroach. Now, here's a really critical detail that the police found out later. When they talked to her, she admitted she had used the method before. So this wasn't some panicked one-time thing. It was a technique she'd actually used in the past, which just makes what happened next even more unbelievable. Because this time, it all went horribly wrong. That little jet of flame didn't just get the cockroach. It touched something flammable nearby in her apartment, and in an instant, what was supposed to be a tiny, controlled flame became a raging, uncontrolled fire. And this is that exact moment. The moment a really bad idea escalates into a full-blown emergency. Because that fire, well, it didn't stay put for long. It set off this terrifying chain reaction that happened so fast. First, the cockroach is torched. Then, the flame catches onto something else. Pretty soon, her whole apartment is engulfed in flames. But the most dangerous part? Thick black smoke started pouring out and completely filled the building's main stairway.
And that, right there, is the turning point. The main escape route for every single person in that 32-unit building was suddenly gone. Residents were literally trapped by a wall of smoke.
And this brings us to the most heartbreaking part of this whole story. To really understand the human cost here, we need to focus on just one apartment, up on the 5th floor. On that floor, there was a young family, a woman in her 30s who was a Chinese national, her husband, and their tiny 2-month-old baby. And they were right in the path of all that smoke. So, with the stairway completely blocked, they were forced to do something desperate and, frankly, incredibly heroic. They threw open their window and started screaming for help. In just an unbelievable act of courage, they managed to pass their newborn baby across a gap to a neighbor in the building next door. The baby was safe. Then the husband made that same dangerous climb across. He made it. But when his wife tried to follow him, she lost her grip, and she fell. She was rushed to the hospital, but sadly, she was pronounced dead just a few hours later. It is just an unimaginable loss. And it all came from a single spark. So let's zoom back out for a second and really look at the full cost of that one terrible decision. First, and most importantly, one person tragically lost their life. On top of that, 8 other people in the building suffered from smoke inhalation. And the fire didn't just affect one apartment. It impacted all 32 homes in the building, leaving dozens and dozens of people without a place to live. So what about the woman who started the fire? Well, the consequences for her are also incredibly serious. Police reports say she could be charged with accidentally starting a fire, and even worse, with causing death by negligence. But this all leaves you wondering, right? Why? I mean, why would anyone even think to do this in the first place? Well, that brings us to our final section, and it connects this one tragic story to something much, much bigger. The shocking answer is that this wasn't an original idea. It turns out that blasting bugs with these makeshift flamethrowers has become this bizarre and really dangerous trend online, all thanks to videos on social media that frame it as some kind of cool or effective life hack. And this isn't some isolated incident. You have this awful tragedy in South Korea, but if you look back to 2018, a guy in Australia set his own kitchen on fire doing the exact same thing. So this isn't a one-off accident, it's a recurring danger, and it seems to be fueled by stuff people see online. Which really leaves us with one final crucial question. It is so easy to scroll past a video online and just see it as entertainment, a shocking but harmless trick. But this story is such a tragic reminder that there are real-world consequences. It really makes you ask, when does a viral hack stop being a hack and become a real-world hazard?